support of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those who have followed the debate, clearly I am a strong no against the underlying bill of the gentleman from Massachusetts. However, should the bill become law, my amendment is a simple parity amendment. It sets a condition precedent for the enactment of the gentleman from Massachusetts bill, and that is the bill that I believe would make all of his provisions, again, achieve parity with labor unions. That is the purpose of my amendment. Again, I don't believe in what the gentleman from Massachusetts is doing. I understand his arguments. He has argued sincerely, cogently, but I simply disagree with what he's trying to do. But again, I believe that in our republic there is no more fundamental or sacrosanct right than that of the freedom of speech. I set a very high hurdle rate to even put the smallest amount of impediment, erosion, hurdle in front of it. And I don't believe we should be going down this route. But if we do, I don't understand the argument why this shouldn't apply equally to labor union organizations. I know many have become very concerned, some frankly apoplectic, over the Supreme Court Citizen United decision. It's one that I certainly agree with. But what I see from the reaction of most people, and I was heartened to hear many of the comments that the gentleman from Massachusetts made, but others who are concerned with this, I have not heard equal amount of concern for the rights of labor union members. I believe that the court got it right, and particularly I quote from language of First National Bank of Boston versus Bellotti, a 1978 Supreme Court case. I read in part, quote, "The inherent worth of the speech in terms of its capacity for informing the public does not depend upon the identity of its source, whether corporation, association, union, or individual." If we did not adopt my amendment, we would be making a decision to put an imposition on the First Amendment rights of corporations that would not be equal to that of labor unions. Now, let's look at a practical matter. And again, I try to avoid questioning other members' motives. I know that although the gentleman from Massachusetts, the distinguished chairman of the full committee, isn't here, he apparently enjoys speculating as to motivation. I'm not going to speculate to the motivation of the gentleman from Massachusetts, but I will speak about the impact of as a practical matter. And I think there are some facts that we need to recognize. Again, as a practical matter, 90 to 95% of all union money benefits the Democratic Party. Now, as a practical matter, with corporations, it is much closer to 50-50. And yet we know in many respects labor unions are even more active in the political process, yet, as we established earlier, if I choose to join a union, and I don't have to join a union just like I don't have to become a shareholder, but if I join a union and I am not in a right-to-work state, I have no right to direct the money they take out of my paycheck with respect to political contributions. Yes, I have a choice not to join a union, but as a practical matter, in many places, if I want to choose to practice my livelihood, and perhaps maybe I'm a third-generation pipe fitter, this is what I want to do. Maybe I am, as a practical matter, compelled to join a union, and I have no right as to what happens to those campaign contributions over and above who I elect to represent me in the union. How is this different from the shareholders? I don't understand that. I know that recently the New York Times reported, quote, unions and their political action committees claim to have spent nearly $450 million in the 2008 political race. Washington Post, July 7th, 2010, unions account for 40% of the campaign-related spending so far this year, while corporations account for less than 15%. Again, there will be a huge disparate impact if we do not enact the amendment that I am proposing now. And in fact, recently National Journal reported 3 unions alone AFSMA, the AFL-CIO, and Service Employees International Union expect to spend more than $150 million in the fall election. So if it's good enough for the shareholder, why isn't it good enough for the union member? So if we're going to do it in tandem. I urge the adoption of the amendment and yield back the balance of my time.